Excuse me. Hey, buddy. Sam. Hey, coming out, fellas. The Terry Gimbel's basement. Stand back there now. Here we go. A 7 for Daddy. 5 deuce. Hey, 7. Snake eyes. That's the story of my life.
As Steve Lawrence mentioned while that was running, he campaigned for this
He
film.
really wanted that role. He lived, and he thought Maggio was really going to do it for him, and he was right, as it turned out. He really...
Here is Lynn on the toll-free now in Indianola, Mississippi. Hi, Lynn, and welcome to CBS Late Night.
Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Hello.
Hey, how are both of you doing?
Fine, thanks.
Fine, Lynn.
Okay, great. I was calling to ask Steve. I wanted to know what his single fondest memory is that he has of Mr. Sinatra.
How about traveling with Sinatra? You were on the road.
Yeah, I think probably that was the greatest memory that that I have and will have. We traveled with Frank for a year all over the world, and traveling with him was a great experience. We had encountered so many different things. We were in a plane ride once from England to Ireland, and it was a lot of bad weather, a lot of rough skies. And he nothing phases him. He goes.
Really, he wouldn't skittish about it?
No, you know, I'm a white knuckle flyer and
me
too, but he couldn't care less. He's got that little Daniels, and he's, you know, he's up there. And anyway, we've gone through all this rough weather, and then over rough weather, like usual, it's the skies are bright and
clear,
blue and clear.
Sure.
So he raised his glass and he said, "Thank you, dear God." It was the first time I heard him say that. And I said, "Really?" Well,
dear God.
Yeah, how about that? And we got to talking about reincarnation. He said, "You know, kid," he said, when I get up to heaven, I'm going to say, 'Thank you very much, dear God. You'll never know what a good time I had.'" I said, "You're going to tell God that he's never going to know what a good time you had?" He said, "Yeah." He's going to say to me, "Did you have a good time, Francis?" I'm going to say, "You'll never know." And he just, he was awful cute. And we had one experience in Ireland. I was up with him all night, about 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. He never slept till the sun came up. And one of the thrills of my life is sitting with Frank Sinatra across the table. As a kid growing up in the shadows of this giant.
Sure.
And now I'm sitting and just, you know, Frank, he says to me, "What do you think of this song, kid?" And it's dawned on me that I'm talking to Frank Sinatra, you know? And I'm thrilled by it. So we get this, we go into this hotel and there's no bar. We came in after the show. And he said to me, "What do you mean there's no bar?" I said, "Just a minute, I'll handle it." So I said to the manager of the hotel, "You have a bar here?" He said, "No." I said, "Well, Mr. Sinatra would like to have a bar. Doesn't you have a little private room?" He said, "Yeah." They set up a couple of tables and chairs and some ice buckets and cubes. In about 5 minutes, it was fine. And we're sitting, it's a nice bar. And they came, "Yeah, great." You know. He says, "Don't they have any music in this bar?" I said, "Oh, God." I said, "Wait here." I go to the manager of the hotel and I said, "The piano player was playing. Can we get him in here?" I said, "Yeah, sure." They grab the piano, they drag it into the room. And the piano player comes in.
What are you, the gopher?
No, I said, "Just sit where," because I know if I let him loose, he's going to rearrange the furniture in the hotel.
Yeah, okay.
So I said to the piano player comes in, and he comes over to Mr. Sinatra. And he says, "Mr. Sinatra, what would you like to hear?" And Frank says, "Well, I'd like to hear Oscar Peterson, but he's not here, so why don't you just, you know, play whatever." I said, "Fine." So the piano player, he played for 4 hours. He never left. And Frank and I were sitting alone, and he's talking to me about pop music and about Tommy Dorsey and the whole thing, and he's asking me what my favorite song is. And I said, for some reason or other, I said, "Moonlight in Vermont." It's difficult to pick a favorite because there's so many wonderful songs out there.
But that's a pretty good one, the one you mentioned.
And he said to me, "Why?" And I said, "Well, it's the only pop song I can think of offhand that doesn't have a rhyme in the entire song. It's like sheer poetry."
Right.
And he said, "What are you talking about?" I recorded that with Nelson Riddle. Now, he says to the piano player, "Moonlight in Vermont." Now he's singing to me. There's just the two of us. And he's singing to me across the table. And I'm staring into those baby blues. And I felt myself almost starting to get involved. You know? He's going like, "Pennies in a stream." And I can't believe it. He's singing to me. And I just, that's probably one of the fondest memories I have.
Yeah. Lynn, I'm glad you called in. Thanks for watching our program tonight.
Well, thank you so much. I just very much respect both of you professionally and think that both of you do a great job.
All right, thanks, Lynn. All right, good night now.
Good night.
So, Sid, when you open Saturday with Sinatra tomorrow night, what will you say to your audience, sir?
Well, actually, the station did from 6 o'clock this morning until 10 o'clock this evening, all Sinatra. And I just finished a 6-hour shift before I came home. And I opened with Angel Eyes, and I said, ladies and gentlemen, here's a toast to you from Francis Albert. And I played nothing but ballads, because this wasn't a night for swinging. And everybody seemed to go along with it. Interesting, since the format of the station is talk with the exception of the Sinatra show, you would think that somebody would call in and say, I don't think I want to hear this. It's not the format of the station. Not one single complaint, nothing but compliments for the entire staff of the station. And there were people of all ages that work at that station now. And I mean, it was marvelous.
And how you holding up, Sid? I know that you had a special affection for Mr. Sinatra.
I was just listening to Stevie tell his story about sitting with Frank at the bar, and I can recall, because I don't know how many people, Steve, you know, I've watched all these interviews today. I've seen all of these experts, all these guys who have written the books, none of whom have ever had 5 minutes alone with Frank Sinatra. And when I think about the time that you've spent, the time that we spent even in backstage at the Spectrum when you guys were touring, and to come into a dressing room and have Frank Sinatra hug and kiss you, and be nice to you, and then invite you to his place in New York and spend an afternoon at the Waldorf and talk about Menachem Begin and Anwar Sadat and the presidency, and not even get near music, and realize that, as you said, you're sitting with Frank Sinatra. And how lucky are we, you and I, to have had an opportunity to go on national television and say, I love this guy, and I don't know what I'm going to do without him, and I miss him. And how fortunate I think I am in my life that through people like Frank Sinatra, I had a chance to meet Steve Lawrence and Evie Gourmet and Vic Damone and Tony Bennett. And I count myself very fortunate that Frank once said, you make a lot of acquaintances in this business, but very few friends, and I consider you a friend.
Well, I pretty much agree with you, Sid. I feel the same way, and I also would like to add to that because of Frank Sinatra and all of us who came after him, how do you thank a man for doing what you're doing in life and loving it?
Hey, you and Edie continue on. You two are one of the last of the dress-up crowd now, you know.
Well, I know.
Get the tuxedos and the pretty dresses, you know, and you keep doing that as the way you thank the guy that made it possible for so many of you.
There's a handful of us out there.
Good. Well, keep going, and when you get back from the tour, you and Edie will come in before I get out of here, and we'll talk about those early days with Steve Allen and all that good stuff, okay? Sid, thank you for joining us. I know it's very late back there in the Philadelphia area. You've had a long day, and thanks a million, Sid. I really appreciate you coming on.
My great pleasure.
Okay,
Stevie, nice to talk to you.
Good night, Sid.
Okay.
Good night. If anybody hurt you, call me.
Okay. Sid Mark out of Villanova, Pennsylvania, Saturday and Sunday with Sinatra. And the one, the only Steve Lawrence of Steve and Edie, who'll be playing all over America and around the world again this year. Thank you for coming in today after a very long day, Mr. Lawrence. I appreciate it.
It's quite
and my best to your bride, okay?
Thank you, Tom.
We will continue with Mary Bono, who's now a member of Congress, serving back in Washington, right after this short break.
Make it one for my baby, and one more for the road.